I'm Jim Juback, and welcome to my YouTube video for Juback Asset Management on Friday, May 29th. Well, to add to my spring enthusiasm, as it's hard to figure out, as evidenced by my little wallpapering here, I also saw my first robin of the spring yesterday. We have a little backyard garden that's not ours, but we overlook in Venice. I think it's run by the guy who owns the bakery down the block. Make great croffins, this cream-filled donut kind of thing. So his garden, he's been replanting trees and trimming stuff, but and opened up a lot of dirt. And I think that attracted the robins because I saw one out there pecking and looking for worms the other day. Okay, speaking of worms, today's topic is really are high-tech CEOs calling a top in this market, which of course means that we think they know what they're talking about. But before we get to that, let's do some sort of bookkeeping. One, if you like this video, find it useful, and you want to get more, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's free. That way you get notification when we're doing our next videos. We're trying to do about 3 a week, not always on the same day. So if you subscribe, you get notification when the next one goes up. You can also get my free Juback Picks site. It's jubackpicks.com, and it has 3 portfolios, dividends, 12 to 18 month, 5-year, and usually 1 or 2 posts a day. If you want more, you can subscribe to my jubackassetmanagement.com site. That's got 6 portfolios, those 3 plus a ETF portfolio, a volatility portfolio, which does some options, and a really long-term, beyond 5 years, portfolio for people who really want to average in at the bottom of things. Okay, you can find links to all those down below, plus another freebie. You can find the link to my Substack. My wife and I have moved to Venice and Italy in general for the next probably about 5 years. We're here in Venice through May, and then we're moving to Sicily. You can follow our adventures on this little journey. Always been a life goal to live in Italy for a while, so that's what we're doing. Now the kids have flown the coop, mostly to Brooklyn, it seems. Anyway, so Substack, We Moved to Italy is the title. It's free. Sign up, where you get notification of when we do the next one. In fact, you get an email for the next one. We'd love to see your comments. It's mostly for fun. So it's all for fun. So hope you'll have some fun reading it. Anyway, that's down below too. Okay, so Financial Times did a story about a week ago that reported on insider buying and selling. We're looking at the first quarter of 2024, and we're seeing we're seeing the ratio of insider selling to insider buying the highest it's ever been. So the highest since the first quarter of 2021. We're seeing a lot of CEOs selling. Some guys whose names you recognize, Jeff Bezos, who did something or other with a bookstore that turned into the retailer that ate the world. Anyway, so he sold about 135 million of Amazon in February. It's the first sale since November of 2021. Peter Thiel, who's one of the co-founders of Palantir, sold $175 million worth of stock in March. We also had sales by Mark Zuckerberg at Meta. Now, there are lots of reasons for this sale to be going on, some of which have to do with the fact that the market rally was so hot in 2023 that a lot of people, and I hope you were among them, decided, hey, let me put off selling until 2024 so I don't have to take capital gains in 2023 and I don't have to pay tax on that until I pay my taxes in 2025. So what good way to defer taxes. So you got pent up selling demand from 2023 and 2024, which we're seeing now. You do need to recognize that these guys have a tremendous amount of their paper wealth tied up in one single asset. So selling is important way to diversify, especially when that asset has been going up in value. But there's also the sense that, well, this is a good time to sell. And that's the issue that really gets at the importance that makes this selling important to us. Because what we're trying to do is to sit here and go, okay, we've had this tremendous rally in 2023, continued into 2024, where I don't know what number of S&P all-time records we're at, somewhere in the low 20s. Seems like we set a new one every day. And people are asking logically, well, when is this a bubble? When do I sell? We've been through this before, so we sort of have this little bubble nerve right here, which is very inflamed. It says, hey, last time we were like this was the dot-com bubble, and we got wiped out then, so we ought to sell now. And this is the voice of the nerves, not my voice. So we've been through this before, and people are doing comparisons to the dot-com bubble and saying, hey, it's like this, it's not like this. I think we've got longer to run. I see some fundamental challenges to this run, based as it is largely on the thesis that AI is the newest new technology to take over the world. I think that sometime around 2025, 2026, we're going to start to see a lot of companies say, hey, we're not seeing the returns on our AI investment that we thought we were going to see. And you're going to see a lot of analysts in Wall Street saying, hey, we're not seeing the top line results here. Well, this is what happens in new technology. It happened with the introduction of the PC. It takes a while for the benefits to work through the system of a new technology, and you're not going to see it all at once. So I think there's a good likelihood that in 25, 26, we'll start to see these negative stories that say, oh my goodness, we're not seeing the gains that we thought we were going to see in our revenue and our profits. Well, that's going to be, I think, time to sell off. It will be a time for investors with a little longer time frame and a little longer sense of history to say, hey, when these guys sell, I want to be some buying, because I think the long-term trend, as we saw with PCs, isn't going to end in a year or two. The benefits will continue going as we try to find more and more ways to incorporate AI into making profits and making earnings and making revenue. But the short story is that I don't think we're going to see a major pricking of the bubble, if there is a bubble, this year. I'm not looking for it in 2024. I am watching very carefully, however, and I have to say that the fact that so many CEOs in the tech sector are selling is not making me feel better about holding on. But right now, it's just one factor that I'm putting into the soup, as it were. Maybe I'm having a ribollita, which is a Tuscan bean and braised soup. Anyway, it's one ingredient that I'm putting in there, trying to make this decision, but it's an important one that I think you should be following. Okay, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel. That way you get notification when we're doing our next one. You can get more of my free stuff if you sign up for my free, did I say free? GBACPicks.com site that has 3 portfolios for 12 to 18 months for dividend stocks, for a 5-year stocks, sort of long term, if you think of 5 years as long term. And that's free, and we probably do 1 or 2 posts a day, 5 days a week. If you want more, you can go to my paid site, that's gbacam.com. And that has 6 portfolios, so those 3 plus 1 for volatility. So we do some options there, 1 for ETFs, a 5 ETF portfolio, 1 for even longer term for people who say 5 years is really short term thinking. I'm only 25, hey, or 35. I've got a long term ahead of me, so I'll try to look for stuff that really is selling off in the short term with a long term future. So 3 other portfolios. You can find links to all those down below. Plus, you'll find a link to my free Substack called We Moved to Italy, which follows my adventures as I've moved to Italy. So hope to see you next time. Ciao, as they say here.